on mute.
Thanks, Jim. So you're all very welcome. We're just after opening the webinar, so there's quite a few of you jumping in there. We're going to give it a minute or two before we kick off. Absolutely delighted to have Jim with us from Scanning Pens. We're going to go deep into what a scanning pen is, what you can do with it, I guess how it's going to help and support your child and help and support the children maybe in or students that are within your primary, post-primary, or even university. So Jim has lots of experience in terms of supporting students with learning difficulties that are using the pen. And I think his story is going to be really interesting as well. So hopefully he'll share a little bit of that. But I just see we're up to about 200 people that have jumped in already. So we're just going to give people maybe an extra minute to come on. Fantastic. Some great to see some names and people that are either on our courses or that have taken courses over the years. And I got an email from somebody this morning who attended one of our summer camps 5 years ago. So really, really interesting. So nice to think that we've been doing it that long and hopefully supporting students as well along the way. So exciting stuff. So for me, this is very much a case of facilitating, Jim, sitting back and having my frank and honest, and I was joking with Jim just before we jumped on, that and a Kit Kat is going to be my engagement here. So I'm going to do a little bit at the start. I'm going to let Jim do a great presentation in terms of what scanning pens are, what they're all about. And then, you know, we'll take some Q&A. So I'll do a small presentation, 5 minutes from me, just to kind of set the scene and talk about this whole process, I suppose, and why we've decided to do this session. We had 550 people, 552 people actually register for this event. So lots of interest, and I'm delighted that people took a bit of time out to come and join us this evening. So delighted that you're here. Thanks for jumping in the chat. I'll give people, I'm going to give people just one more minute, Jim, if that's all right with you. I know you're eager to jump in there. Well, fantastic to see somebody here from Canada. That's great. I think you might know.
I know that is. Yeah. Hi, Judy.
Yeah,
I've seen your posts. Amazing to see you. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, she's a star. I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with her and Jack and having a bite to eat and a beer at a lovely conference in Orlando. But unfortunately, I didn't get there this year. But look, next year.
Fantastic. Yes, I saw the name, and I've seen loads of the promotion she does for us and the pens. Amazing.
It's fantastic. All right. Well, it looks like we've lots of people coming in. We're closing in on 250. So I think we're going to kick off now, and I'm just going to give my bit of a spiel from the get-go. Yeah, feel free to jump into the chat. So just to kind of set the scene, this is recording, and what I'll do afterwards is we'll edit it. Myself and Sarah will edit this down. We'll send it out, and basically what you'll get is more the synopsis of Jim's session, Jim's slides, all the links that we have. We'll literally put all that out to people tomorrow. So I'm going to actually be sending out the recording. I hope to get to it tomorrow, so you'll probably see it in your inbox over the next day or so. Anything that we discuss here in terms of links, in terms of slides, literally everything will go out. And we also, I'm delighted, Jim, I know that you're pushing this as well. We have a free reader pen for somebody on the call here or somebody on the webinar. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, people that are literally live that have logged in, we'll just pick a name maybe tonight or tomorrow morning, and that person will get a reader pen. So we're delighted that you were able to give us that to the value of €300. So Jim, thanks a million for doing that for me. I really appreciate it. And obviously giving your time. And I know this is a little bit late, it's 8 o'clock, but really I do feel it suits parents a little bit better. That sort of 8 to 9 slot. All right, so in terms of the format, what I just want to say is we are using the Q&A. So please do use the Q&A, use the chat for anything kind of informal. Myself and my colleague Sarah, who's here in the background, will literally be going through the Q&A, answering as Jim is speaking as well. And we'll pick up the stuff towards the end that we didn't get around to answer. So use the chat as more informal, and we'll be monitoring the Q&A really, because there's quite a lot of people on. So we're really going to push heavy to use the Q&A as our main sort of method. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen right now. All right. So I'm just going to jump in here, and there's a few slides I just want to go through people with. All right, so scanning pens, where to start? I guess, look, scanning pens have been around for quite a while, and Jim's going to go into detail of that. But I've had the pleasure of knowing Jim for a number of years, and I've known, you know, the owner, one of the main owners there, Jack Churchill, for a long time, since the start. You know, literally from the time they kicked off, and he's always been a really great supporter, and I'm delighted to see what they've gone on to do and the difference certainly that they're making. And albeit a company for profit, it's very much a company that wants to make a difference. And I think, you know, you'll see that from some of the stuff that Jim shares tonight in terms of their drive around dyslexia. Jack having dyslexia himself, and I'm sure that Jim will share his story, and certainly that's something that we all, the three of us, kind of share as well in terms of our own learning difficulties. So what I want to do right now is I want you to jump into the chat this minute. All I want you to do is literally write down where you're tuning in from. So I don't want you to hit enter just yet. We're going to give people a few seconds, and I want you to open the chat. So I just literally, if you're in Cork, which is the real capital of Ireland, obviously, I want you to write in Cork. Depending on where you are, just jot it in there. And in a few seconds, I'm just going to hit enter. So go ahead, hit enter, and let's see where people come. So Kerry, Dublin, my God, it's going too fast, I can't see. Wicklow, Dublin, Meath, Ratoath, Cork, lots of Cork, great. Tipperary in all caps, which is great. In Esquarty, Westford, Donegal, Louth, my God, fantastic. Cavan, Waterford, Skib, great to see a good Cork contingent. Blessington, yeah, fantastic. Meath, so a really good Blanchardstown, Middleton, County Cork. I'm from Cloyne, so nice to see that person. Clare, I think, just saw it there. So I'm from Cloyne myself, so great to see you. Kildare, all right, fantastic. We've got some really epic people on the call, Jim, and I think another person from Middleton. My God, that's phenomenal. So we've a nice mix as well, Jim. We got teachers, we got parents, primary, post-primary. I know that there's some, you know, post secondary. So we have some adult education. I was talking to a few people yesterday that were coming from universities. So a really nice mix. My goodness, another a Middleton person. We should have just ran this session in Middleton and done it face to face. That would have been even better. All right, so it is really, really nice mix of people, and great to see somebody here from Germany. Actually, we were over back by email, so that's fantastic. Look, delighted that you're here. Delighted with such a kind of a mix. It really means an awful lot to me, and you know, to my colleague Sarah, who's in the background, who's probably cursing me for keeping her working or so late on a Tuesday night. So if you stay till the end, and not even stay till the end, this literally is for the people that come on live, because I always do find that, you know, we get a lot of people that register, and about give or take half people turn up. Lots of things are going on. I appreciate it. As a parent myself, there's always something happening in the house. So, you know, whether you're making dinner now, having a coffee, trying to get the kids to bed, it takes me about an hour. And luckily, I've escaped that I was going to say enjoyable process, but yeah, that's not for me tonight. So yeah, we've got a free pen, and that's really important to me. I know that we gave out, we had some pens here, some trial pens around the office, and we gave some of those out to some parents just recently. And there it is, Jim's parading that around. So yeah, these are pictures I took, Jim, you know what, about a year and a half ago. And I was like, I'm going to find a use for these random pictures that I take, holding these pens around the place. And here we are about a year and a half later. So what are we going to cover? We literally are going to, I do want to cover a little bit around the assistive technology grant. And this is something, if you're on our courses, or, you know, if you've come to any of my sessions before, I do cover it, and I cannot cover it enough, I think, in many ways. So for that, I want to just spend 5 minutes talking about the assistive technology grant. This is very much Irish specific and Irish based, but we'll just do it for 5 minutes. And again, we've written a blog on it. I've done a quite detailed video on it, and I'll send all that out as well afterwards. Jim's going to give his presentation, probably 35 minutes, give or take. Then we want to have a bit of a discussion around using the pens potentially for state exams and what that looks like. And I know what Jim's going to cover off a little bit about that as well. And I just want to talk about, I suppose, the guidelines, what that whole procedure around reasonable accommodations is. And I know that's very much post-primary, but it'll be a quick discussion and something important nonetheless. And we'll have a bit of Q&A, and I'm hoping to kind of wrap it all up in and around for 9:15. This whole session has been recorded. Any Q&A towards the end, what we'll do is we'll cut some of that out if any of it does happen to be personal. So a lot of this main block will be recorded, and that's what will be shared afterwards. All right, so that's what we're doing. So just from my standpoint, I suppose, I always love this quote. So it's do the best you can until you know better, and when you know better, do better. And I use this quite a lot, because in many ways, I think a lot of us that have been in this game for a while, we do know better. And a lot of teachers, SNAs and parents know better, but it's about knowing how to actually use the knowledge that you have and how to implement it. And I do think, when we get on to talking about reasonable accommodations and state exams here in Ireland, what's really disappointing is when we see that we're still using recording devices in 2022. And it's just, the mind boggles, I suppose, and I'm not going to get into the detail of it, but I strongly suggest that we know better that recording devices are not the perfect solution for students that have disabilities or learning difficulties or challenges in terms of writing or reading. Just think of that whole process. You want to write a whole exam using a recording device. Now, if you're using that this year and you've been doing a bit of practice, or your son or daughter or students are doing it, fantastic. But I do think that there's a proportion of people not on this call that probably do know better, and just we're not quite there yet. And that's why I think sessions like this and sessions that we're doing in general, hopefully, are moving the dial just a little bit. What I want to talk about, because I know a lot of people were on about this morning with me. So great that we have so many people that are on our courses already on this session. That's fantastic. Just a reminder to those who are on our parent and education courses, we are going to be doing more specialist webinars with you guys. So I'm going to book something in for March after midterm. We're going to do a specific session for parents, a specific kind of Q&A general session for education. But if you're not on those courses and you're interested in coming on those courses, then please, you can ask any questions in the chat. You can get in touch with us by email. This is how we run Your Ability. Basically, we run our online courses. We do not sell software. We don't resell for Gem. We literally try to make ourselves as independent as we possibly can, and then look for the best options for people. And, in terms of our parent option, it really is just a selection of short videos, really specific to the point, hopefully, that are quite helpful, and something that we update very, very regularly. So we did a big update at Christmas. It's specific to iPad, it's specific to laptop, and we look at built-in, free, and then paid for. And if you're in education, you're a teacher or a SNA or potentially principal, then we obviously have our education version of the same course, which covers both together and wraps a lot more in. And that's about 20 hours of learning. And we have that certified and accredited for a 20-hour cert. And lots of schools will buy memberships for that. But look, just to know it's there. I'm not going to play that testimony, but I will come back to it if people have questions. But what I wanted to do tonight, just in case people were interested, and we had a lot of people on to us today, is if you use the code SCANNING, you will get €30 off. Okay, so that makes it €80 for 12 months. And again, we've had lots of parents that have done this for 2 or 3 years, and we try to make it as reasonable as we can. So a lot of parents will roll over. So we had a lot of people sign up again in January, and it costs €55 for every year thereafter if you want to stay in it. But I'll drop that link in there later, and ask me any questions you have about it. And it's very specific to iPad or laptop if you're a parent, and then you get everything if you're in education, literally, because it's that 20 hours of learning, certified, accredited, log in anytime, or use it on your phone. So hopefully that is helpful to a few people. Like I say, that's literally how we keep the ship afloat. So AT grant, what I want to do here is I just want to talk about it a little bit. And this has come up quite a lot. I gave a talk last week for some of the education centres around assistive technology and what the grant means. And I suppose the core thing is that, it's not a silver bullet in many ways. And just because you meet the criteria potentially for the grant, it's not to say that it's a guarantee. And I think that's really important to say from the get-go. The AT grant is more so there for, like the circular that came out in 2013 is a staged approach. Okay, so basically there's 5 different stages, and I'll show it to you in a second when I run through it. But just to bear in mind, just because you meet a certain level of criteria is not to say that it's a guarantee you'll get it, because there's these kind of stages that in essence you should have gone through before you get the grant. And the grant is almost like the last line of defense in many ways. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. But that's what's there. And we get lots of emails from schools, from families that are really interested in saying, look, my educational psychologist or my occupational therapist, recommended and said it was an essential criteria that I get technology. You can absolutely use technology if you have it yourself or if the school have it. But you aren't guaranteed, I suppose, getting the grant. And then the typical average grant amount currently, and again, this is just an average amount, is about €550 for a device. most typically a laptop. So again, you'll get a reasonably spec laptop for that, but you probably won't get everything that's been recommended. And just, you know, myself and Sarah and Aaron, we see a lot of emails coming in about a primary school child with, you know, dyslexia and DCD getting recommended really high-end laptop, you know, maybe getting recommended Dragon Natural Speaking, read and write, all these things that probably aren't necessary for a student at that level. So this is my last share here now, Jim. I'm just going to show one last thing and then the floor is completely yours. There. Share this there. Okay, so I just want to open up this document here. So this is just a blog that we have on it. I'll send this around. Some of you might have seen it already. This is really what the grant is about. You know, what type of disabilities per se fit in and within that. And then just come down here, I suppose, a little bit further. So these are kind of some of the stages, okay? This is some of the technology that gets covered. So I guess the core thing here really is, you know, like, is this teaching key skills? Is it a description of the need? Like when you're filling that application, if you're a teacher, it's quite important that you do go into a lot of detail, I suppose. That's one of the core things that comes up a lot. And again, this circular was written in 2013, so some of the language that's used in it is a little bit dated in terms of, you know, smartphones and phones, and you just have to be quite specific in terms of what's there. I will pass on the circular, but I think it's important that you just look at this one here. You know, these are some of the core stages, and this is on page 3 of that circular. Really, really important that you get this, that we get this in you know, ingrained, because also there's no correlation between the AT grant and reasonable accommodations in state exams. And again, I can't say that clearly enough. So firstly, have all possible interventions and accommodations been put in place within the school? So have we tried to put in interventions aside from technology? Has existing equipment within the school been tried? And basically you're stating in that application that it has and it hasn't worked. Is the possibility of procuring the AT out of school funding been looked at? And again, in that application as a teacher or school, you're saying that that has been looked at least, and it's not a possibility. And then very finally, has the student been allowed to use his or her own equipment in school and it doesn't necessarily meet the needs? So there are kind of the stages, and there's one core line on page 3 as well that's really important to look at. Basically, it says if the student has the technology that meets the needs, then therefore it potentially could be looked at, you know, about using that in school if they have a recommendation. And that's in consultation, obviously, with the school in terms of the technology, the fair usage policy. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind it, but these are very, very high level stuff. And I'll take this in Q&A a bit later, but I think it's really important from the get-go that we just talk about this grant, because I see it every time. If you have a recommendation of assistive technology for your son or daughter, please do not wait to put it in place until you get the grant. Like I cannot say that enough. And it's not going to be the holy grail. It's not going to be the silver bullet. So like if you have anything at home, a laptop, an iPad, any sort of device, get using it straight away, because that basically is going to be the difference, I suppose, between scaffolding learning and not. On that, Jim, the floor is yours. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening to me for a few minutes.
Brilliant. Thank you, James. And thank you for the introduction. And it was great to hear your part, all the courses that you do, and also just to hear the AT grants, which I am aware of, but I didn't know there was so much information with it. So I'd just like to thank you for organising this webinar as well. I can't believe how many people have registered and how many people are here today. So thank you ever so much for everybody who's here today and signed up to listen. So what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen with everybody. And as James mentioned at the start, we will be giving away a free pen at the end. And then I'm sure James will sort that out and we'll say to the winner later on anyway. So what I'll do, I'll share my screen with you guys, and then feel free to ask any questions, and James and Sarah will do their best to answer them. And if there are any questions towards myself, I'll be able to answer them at the end. Right. So Got this thing at the top here, James. I'm trying to get rid of it. How do I get rid of this, James, this toolbar?
It'll just move. Yeah, you just need to move it down ever so slightly, and then
That's it. I wanted it in big so everyone could see it. So again, thank you ever so much for everybody who's come along to the webinar today. I know it's quite late in the evening as well, so I'll keep it around 30-35 minutes, and we'll go through everything to do with the pens today. So we'll be talking a little bit about us, who Scanning Pens are, and who I am as well. And we'll go into a bit more detail around a campaign that we do as well called Succeed with Dyslexia. So I'll share with you everything to do with that as well. And then we'll move straight into the pen. So we'll talk about our white reader pen. And then I'll talk about the other devices we have available. So there's quite a few devices that we have that do different things. So I'll compare them, talk about them, and tell you how they can help in the classroom as well. We'll also talk about the key features and benefits. So today what I want to do is to dive into more detail about these devices just here and go into how you can change the device to the different settings, and we'll go through everything that we have available to you today. And then what I'll also do is introduce the SEC guidance to you as well. So I'll talk about that and talk about how that can be used to apply for a reasonable accommodation to use these pens. And I'll give you the evidence for that as well. And I know myself and James can talk about that later. And then what I want to share with you is some of the case studies we did. They're a little bit old now because I haven't had a chance to come out to Ireland for the last couple of years. But I can share with you some of the feedback that we've received from schools. It's great that some of the press we've had from the Wexford libraries that have been using the reader pens to help adults, children as well in their learning, to help them to read and just get that access to literacy, which has just been amazing to hear. And also share with you something that we've recently kind of started to do, which is some of the training that I do. So I do training with post-primary, and we also have training with primary schools, colleges and universities. So I'll share with you some information on how you can get some free training booked in if you are a teacher. And I also hold talks for parents as well. And I'll also share my last thing, which would be the free additional resources that you can download from our website to help with training and implementation on the pens. So let's talk scanning pens, and let's talk a little bit of an introduction by myself. So I'm Jim, and I've worked for Scanning Pens just over 5 years now, and it's a really great success story actually to share with you. So I started out just as a sales assistant. So originally I didn't get the job. I worked in retail, and I thought to myself, right, I'll give it a month, and then I'll go back to my manager now, Ed, and I'll see what he thinks. And then I kept pestering him, and then eventually it paid off, and he gave me a chance, and I've repaid that chance by kind of working my way through the organisation and just giving myself a shot. And now I'm the UK secondary business manager for the UK and Ireland. So I look after post-primary and special education. We do have offices now in the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, and India. So we are now a global business as well. So not just in the UK. And something that's really close to me, being dyslexic myself as well, it's called Succeed with Dyslexia. So I'll share with you the links basically to give you kind of update on this. It's a charity-based organisation. It's not anything to do with sales. It's to do with sharing stories, talking about dyslexia, talking about your journey from adults to children. So do please go to the hashtag, and I'll share with you the link at the end. It's called #Succeed with Dyslexia. Or you can go to our website, succeedwithdyslexia.co.uk. Some fantastic information. And it's run by the director of there called Darren Clark, who you may have heard of on LinkedIn or Twitter. So feel free to go over to that. So let's dive straight into the pens. And I always like to go through those core basics with anyone I speak to and when I'm doing training. So this is the device itself. What I can do is share the demonstration videos with James that you can look at in your spare time. It's hard to kind of demonstrate it on like a webinar like this. So what I will do is I'll kind of talk through it, and you can see, kind of visualize what the device looks like as well. So this is a mid-tech device, a small handheld device to scan over printed text only. So it will only scan printed resources. It won't scan over a computer screen, and it won't scan over your handwriting. So you use it to access access those printed resources. And then as you scan it over a line, a word, or several lines at once, it will then read aloud back to you. So you're seeing it on the screen, and then you're getting it through the headphones that are provided in the box if you trial, or you've already purchased these pens as well. Key fact to remember with the headphones is you don't have to use the headphones provided in the box. You could easily just bring in your own headphones as well, because some students, or even yourself, you prefer ones over your ears like that instead of earbuds, for example. So you can do that with your headphones. You also don't have a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth requirement with these devices. So it's a completely portable device. It's distraction free. You can be anywhere. You could be sat in the library, sat at home, using one of these pens. Other facts to remember is that the pen only scans from font size 6 point to 24. So rather small to rather large text size as well. And the basic rule of thumb I always say to schools is that anything that fits within this plastic bracket at the bottom, it will scan over and read aloud. If it's too small, if it's bigger than that plastic bracket, it won't scan over and read it to you. It also reads majority of fonts, but it struggles with kind of cursive or artistic text. So if you were to scan like a logo, say off our leaflet, it wouldn't generally pick this up. So you just need to bear that in mind as well. But it will scan over coloured backgrounds. So if you've got coloured overlays for students, especially with dyslexia, for example, they will scan over that with ease as well. It does have a built-in battery. So the built-in battery is just located at the back of the device, and it's plugged in using a USB cable, which is provided in the box for you. If you do lose the cable, you can just buy that from Amazon. It's only about £1, and you just plug it into your laptop or computer. It takes around 2 to 3 hours to charge, and you get 8 to 9 hours battery life. So probably a full week's worth of using this device as well. So it makes it a really great overall device. So you could probably get a long time using it. And unlike a tablet, a smartphone, or even a reader now to use these devices, it is that distraction free that makes it such a great device. You've got those headphones in, you're fully engaged with what you're reading, and you're picking out the words, the lines, or a whole paragraph that you want to read aloud back to you. So not only do we have the exam reader, but we also have other devices available to you. So I'm going to go through them and explain the differences. So the reader pen. The reader pen is your everyday use pen, I call it, the research pen. It has a dictionary on, it has a dictaphone, and it has 8 GB storage on it. So this is a pen you would probably use in, say, for example, the library. You would use it at home, and you would use it in your classroom. You maybe would use it at more primary level as well. You could use it in post-primary at those lower levels there, just for your everyday lessons to access your English, your history, your geography lessons. Those lessons where it's a bit harder vocabulary, you just need to pick out your pen, and you can maybe use your dictionary definitions to use the other features. I am going to go through all of the features with you shortly on the reader pen anyway. So that's that pen. And then you have the Orange Exam Reader. So the Orange Exam Reader is exam approved. So here in the UK, you'd have to use the Orange Exam Reader for your examinations. The Orange Exam Reader is approved by the State's Exam Commission. You would need to apply for this using their online system, and you would tick exam reading pen, and then you can go in and use one of these pens for your exams. I have some more information on that I can share with you guys later on. And then finally, we have the other pen that I feel may be beneficial to you, which is called the Lingo pen. So the Lingo pen is your translator tool. It has 9 languages on it. So it will translate in between French, Spanish, Italian, German, Chinese, Russian, and it has an Arabic download on there. So you would pick out that word, and then you could go English to French or French into English, for example. You can look up these translations as well using the dictionary mode on the Lingo pen. And then for parents, I feel this would be really beneficial, or if you're in workplace and apprenticeships as well. This is called the Connect pen. A little bit cheaper than the free because you need a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connection to use it. But basically what this allows you to do is you download an app on your iPad or on your phone, And then you can scan over a word, and with your app loaded up on the device, it will transfer those words straight to your app, and then you can have it, you can listen through it using the app. So you can plug in headphones, listen to it via your mobile, and you can also use the Google Translate services on there. So I think you sign up, if you have Apple, for example, or Android, you sign up for 6 months, and you can just keep changing emails to get that service. And that basically allows you to translate any language, and that's called the Connect Pen. I see that more in the workplace or more further on as well, because the other 3 have that portability factor where you don't need to worry about Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So let's talk about the Reader Pen, and let's go into some detail around it, and let's talk about all of the features that are really beneficial. So the first feature is the text reader. This is the main premise of the pen. So when you click into text reader, there'll be a cursor flashing. And then as you scan over a word, a line, or several lines at once, it will then start to read aloud back to you via those headphones. So you would need to click straight into this, otherwise it won't start scanning to you. And what's great about the text reader is when you click into menu, it brings up a quick set menu. So many of our customers don't know this and don't know you can actually do this. And students just go away and start using this and then say, Miss, it's in German, or Miss, it's doing a weird thing. So it's really important we kind of understand these features and really get to see how these can really influence a student's journey as well. So the first feature I'd like to explain, and this is both on the Reader Pen and the exam reader as well, is your read settings. So when you click into read settings, what you can do is change the speed of the voice. So you can have it really slow, or you can have it really quickly. So when you go into speed and volume, you can obviously change volume, but you can also change the speed of that voice. So you can have it really slow, or you can have it really quickly. So you can change between 0 to 5. 3, I would say, is around maximum. I've heard the voice several times, and I feel 5 starts to slur the words and make it quite difficult to understand and digest what you're reading. So speed and volume is really really great feature on the pen. You can also go into your read settings and you find a setting called word pause. Similar to speed, is you can scan over a line, and as you lift up your device, it will pause between each individual word. So we're actually breaking that sentence down and opening it up a little bit, and we're giving spaces in between each word. Great for students with that slow processing and dyslexia, for example. And again, you only need around 3 seconds maximum on that pause. And then finally, a feature that I pushed for the last couple of years, and we finally got it 2 years ago, it's called the auto read function. So any of you who have got the pen out there, you may have noticed as soon as you scan a line and lift up the pen, it instantly reads back to you, which is great. And the pen was designed to help you read independently. So read what you can, and then pick the pen up to pick out that odd word or line that you would normally struggle with. However, sometimes, especially if you're doing an English reading exam, or you're doing more in-depth questions where it's a whole paragraph, with auto read, you can scan over a line, scan the next line, or even the next line, and it won't start to repeat back to you until you press your main middle button. So it allows you to capture a chunk of text instead of line by line, or having to be confused. Why is it starting to read back to me? I need more than just one line read aloud back to me. So that's auto read. It basically stops the function of reading back word by word or line by line. So the power's in your hands, and it gives you a chance to press the button and then have it repeated back in one go. I'm noticing the time, actually, I'm already taking a lot of time. So we also have the dictionary mode. So basically you can select between 2 dictionaries, the Oxford Primary being more simplified, and the Collins, which is more in-depth dictionaries. So in there with the dictionaries, you can select a word, look up the definition, so you see it on your screen, and then you hear it aloud at the same time. So you can select between the 2. If you want more in-depth, you go to your Collins. If you want more simplified, you go for the Oxford Primary. What I feel is a great feature on the dictionary to kind of remind you, and maybe you might be thinking of lesson plans around the devices, is actually to use the history mode. So you click on your menus when you're in the dictionary, and what this allows you to do is see all of the recent words that you scanned. So you can actually see all of those words as a list. So if you want to go back in and use it as kind of a lesson, or use it with that student and say, what have you learned today? Should we talk about the different definitions that you've learned? Then you can go in and do this. Or maybe you want to pick out the pen, start scanning the words in and create your own vocabulary and word list. Give that to the student, show them how to do it, and then they can start to write down those definitions. So you're creating a learning activity and training around using these devices. You also have scan to file. I love this feature. And what I might do with James is suggest that we maybe do a 10-minute, 15-minute feature on this, because I feel it's really important to suggest and kind of go through. So basically what this allows you to do is when you plug in your pen, that's how you charge the pen. But there's two other features that you can do on there, and that's called UDisc and charging. UDisc allows you to access the 8 GB storage on the device. So what you can do on this pen is you can save onto it like a USB pen. So if you save text, you can delete it, you can add to it and listen back to it later, or you can plug it into your device, into your laptop or computer, and then upload it as a text file, which now brings us into that kind of connectivity, creating that link from our pens to other technology. So you might be using a computer reader like Read and Write Gold, Claro Read, where you can start to manipulate and edit that text, but you've started it by using this pen. You've captured text. Instead of creating a PDF copy or sourcing it, you've captured that text and uploaded it to your computer. There's another great feature that I really like called Keyboard, which basically means as you scan text in, and as long as you've got a cursor flashing, that text instantly swipes from your pen, so anything you've scanned, straight to your computer screen. So another way of capturing data. And then finally on the Reader Pen, you do have a recorder. So it's just basically a mini kind of dictaphone feature where you can record voice clips onto there and then save them and listen back to them later. Unfortunately, it doesn't translate into text. It is just an added bonus to the device, a simplified dictaphone. So the pens do have a speaker. So if you take it out, the headphones, they will speak aloud to you if you decide to do this. And it does have a left and right-handed mode. So you would select that in your settings. And what it does is it flips the screen upside down for anyone right-handed in there, left-handed or looking the correct way. You can scan left to right, right to left. So you can scan backwards using the device as well. So if you decide to do this, and I've seen left-handed people using the pens and they actually like going left-handed because it feels more natural to do this, feel free to do that as well. So this is all in your settings, and I'll talk about some of the resources that will point you in the right direction on how you access all of these features. And then finally, do go to our websites and have a look at readerpen.co.uk and examreader.co.uk, because on there, there's some fantastic videos, case studies and research that we've done, and there's some demo videos that you can have a look at. So funny story, basically, before I come on here, I had to change some of the slides because it was for the UK. So I wanted to give you the most relevant information. So I'm just checking, just checking to see if I've got the SEC guidance in there. So this is the exam reader. You can see from the diagram there that the features are completely wiped away. No dictionary, no dictaphone, no storage. This is specifically designed for examination purposes only. So for your Leaving Cert, I think I'm right, Leaving Cert, you would use one of these devices instead of a computer reader or a human reader. So you'd go in and use this device. You'd use this obviously in your classroom, in your mock exams, preparing yourself ready to use them for your Leaving Cert at post-primary. Primary school, I would maybe suggest looking at using the Reader Pen, but you could use the exam reader. That's not an issue. But the Reader Pen gives you those added features and added bonuses, and then prepares you to use the exam reader in post-primary. And I'd suggest that, especially for parents as well, to use the Reader Pen, because you have all of those extra features that are really beneficial to you. So I see the exam reader more in schools than I would maybe for parents as well. Oh, and obviously there's colleges and universities in here. So the Reader Pen and the exam reader would be a really good fit. It all depends how you want to use them. So here is the SEC statement. You can see here it's an old slide. It says 2018 on it. I don't think it's changed too much. I think 2018 maybe 2019 was the last time I visited Ireland, which was amazing. I went, so basically, guys, to give you a short story, I didn't realise the distance from Cork to Dublin. I realised it was a good, I think, 2.5, 3 hours, maybe even longer. So I rented a car and I thought, yeah, we'll be able to do that easily in a day or whatever. And then I realised how far it actually was as well. Amazing driving, some amazing sights that I saw there, and I really enjoyed my time. And it was great because we were able to visit the exam board and talk to them as well around the exam pens, and they gave us some amazing feedback around the pens. So it was quite relatively new back in 2017, 2018. There's only so many schools using these pens, and then obviously we've had the pandemic, so it's changed everything completely. So this is the SEC statement. And it basically says providing access to the exam. Let me move this. There we go. Move me out the way. So providing access to the exam reader pen as an alternative solution to a reader or reading assistant for candidates eligible for this, providing digital course booklets. So an exam reader pen, and then they just give you kind of an explanation to what the actual pen is. So you've got all of that information, and we'll go into more detail about the exam. James might have some more information on this, but yes, you can use these for the examinations. Oh, I've moved on. So the exam reader, so it does have other languages on, and so does the reader pen. So it has German and French on the reader pen, and the exam reader has Spanish, French, German, Italian, and the rest. I've run out of breath if I say all of the languages, but basically what it does is it doesn't translate. It just helps you with pronunciation of these words. So if you do a modern foreign languages, say for example you're doing German, you can scan over a German word and it read it back in a German accent and help you to kind of understand what that word is trying to ask you as well. It also has the word pause, the read delay, the auto read on there. So all of those features I explained on the reader pen are on the exam reader. I want to quickly mention something that I feel is a really beneficial feature that we added recently. So if you've already got these pens, great, I'll show you how you can get to this. If you haven't, you can actually, what happens is it's basically your mini guide. It's called the Run Wizard. So what this is like your mobile phone or your laptop. When you first turn it on, you go through a wizard. You go through the languages that you want to add on, the Wi-Fi, your new name, your login, similar to the pen, except for what you're doing is you're setting up these features beforehand. So you're looking at the reading menu. I saw a message off somebody in the chat around visual impairments. So to give you a quick brief on visual impairment. So the pen can be used with people with visual impairment, but they would need to be able to see the lines to scan them. So if they struggle, they can still use the pen. However, with visual impairment, if they obviously can't see the lines to scan them, it'd be very difficult. And it also takes away that independence factor for them as well. So it would be difficult, but we do have settings on there, which is called the talking menu. So if you click that on, what that does is it speaks each menu as you go through them. So as you navigate through the menus, it will speak it aloud to you. So that's great for visual impairment. And we also have something where you can enlarge a single word on the screen. So you just hold in this middle button when a word's highlighted and it enlarges straight away on your screen. So as you go through the Run Wizard, you have word pause that you can select auto read left and right handed. And what I like about this feature is if you've kind of thought of a student you feel who would benefit from this and you think, I feel word pause would be great for them. You could go through the Run Wizard and give them that pen as a personalized device that would be suitable for them, as this may not be suitable for another student who doesn't need the word pause, for example. So there's different ways in which you can use this device and set it up ready-made. And you can go back in your settings if you've had a play with the pen and run the wizard again because it's right at the bottom of your screen. So that basically in a nutshell is all of the settings, the features and how you can use our different devices as well. What I want to share with you is some of our free resources and then just showcase some of the case studies that we've done. I can see I've already took nearly 45 minutes, I believe. So basically this study I love because what this does is it talks about recall memory. It talks about how many times on average someone takes to learn a new word. And obviously imagine someone dyslexic or someone who does have those reading difficulties, how long it would take them. So what we did was we did our own study around the reader pen. And what we found out is, it doesn't say on here, but basically we found out that it takes a person on average press the button, so the middle button, 10 times to have that word repeated back to them, which showcases to you, if you kind of had a human reader, for example, sat next to you or you're by yourself, around 4 or 5 times after having something repeated back to you, you would then move on to the next question. And that could be the difference between 4 or 5 marks, or even you sat there struggling and just thinking, I'm done with this. I don't want to read anymore. And what we want is people to not feel embarrassed as well. And that's a huge factor around these pens, is that it takes away that embarrassment factor and it gives you something that you feel independent and confident around using these devices for yourself. So I can share this research with you. This is just a snippet of it later on after the presentation. So I'm getting near the end, guys, don't worry, I'm waffling a little bit. So what I want to do is talk about some of our free resources we have available to you. So our free resources can be downloaded from our website. So it's just scanningpens.co.uk/literacy resources. There's a primary section, there's a post-primary, and there's a college and university set resources as well. The first one, which is not on here, is called the implementation guide. We send this out to any customer. So if you're a parent taking a pen, if you're a college, if you're an educational establishment, you would get one of these guides now. So these guides basically go through the how to use the pen. It has a diagram of the pen, how to access all of your settings and features, and it has our comprehensive hints and tips as well. So some hints and tips to give you: the way that you hold the device at a 75-degree angle, you let it rest on your hand with your headphones plugged in. You press down on the page and then you scan into that line and you allow it to take its time, and then you listen back using your headphones. You also can use a reading ruler at the bottom of the page, so bottom of the line, as a nice guide to follow. So if you have people who are struggling to kind of scan line by line, they may find using a reading ruler something really suitable. So all of this is in your implementation guide, which is a free guide to download from our website. We also have this, which is called the Helping Hands Detective Agency. So the Helping Hands Detective Agency is basically a short stories with illustrations and characters. These characters have their own kind of unique power. So you have the anxious owl who's trekking through the desert, and basically you would read these stories using your reader pen or even your exam reader. And then with there, you would have questions based on that story. So it's introducing learning activities, and it's also helping you to get practice and training with your pens, which I feel is really important. And something I wanted to mention as well is around, if you have got the pens and you're struggling to get students to use them and implement them effectively, some of the things that we've learned from school and the feedback that I've received is around kind of introducing them as a scanning pens champion. So having someone who does the training, would talk about the pens, and would introduce them as an inclusive approach, that everybody is welcome to use these pens. It's not just for that certain person with reading difficulties or dyslexia, but anybody could use one of these pens, and making everyone feel welcome. You could also have a student who may be someone who's quite happy to talk in front of people, demonstrating the pen to other students, which would potentially influence them to use it. We can give you all of the fantastic resources, the videos to help you with that as well. I have had emails from some of you talking about if you've got videos to help, so I'm happy to help support with that, and I'll be sending a reply soon. So we do offer free training. So you listen to my webinar today, we do go into more detail around our training as well. So feel free to get in contact with our head of education, Julia at scanningpens.com. She runs free CPD training around navigation, demonstrating the pens, and basically going into more detail than what I'm doing already, and offering as much support as possible. So she can do that as a bespoke package to really tailor it around what your needs are. So feel free to get in touch with Julia at Scanning Pens. She usually does it to a large range of you. So if you have some people and you have some time to do a CPD session, feel free to get in touch with her. So I've grabbed this because this was a long time ago. So I do apologise, but basically this is from the Fingal Community School, and it was when we were starting to get loads of information, and it's basically just some information. I'll send this feedback with you, and it's just talking about you can see it says I could study independently. Normally my dad reads my homework for me, could pick up the pen and get started whenever I wanted. So it's just that easeability of using the pen as well, and very reliable. I found the left-handed modes. We also have Wesley College in Dublin. He had difficulty using it for reading, really took to the pen and used it a lot in exams. So you can just see there that they've used it. So if anyone doesn't know Wesley College, do feel free to get in touch. I believe after that, they've purchased around 10 pens as well. And then finally, this teacher, actually, I know who this is. We met them at the Bet Show. She took a pen on trial and found it was great because what it did was it drawn less attention to them because of that discrete factor that they could sit there independently and use them, and it didn't disrupt the rest of the class as well. And then finally, I'll end on this, and also actually to mention is if you are looking at these pens, think actually these are a great device and I want to kind of know how I can get in touch, I will provide some links. I'm sure James will be able to happy to help with that as well, around kind of requesting a trial from us, and also getting some more information on some resellers that you could purchase our pens from as well. And then finally, please go to our Succeed with Dyslexia global community. It's growing day by day. So here is the links to our Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. We've got some fantastic videos, content and information to help you. So guys, thank you ever so much for listening. I look forward to all of the questions, and if you got any questions, just shout out directly to me. Thank you.
Jim, you're a star. You might just stop sharing there for a few minutes when you get a chance.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Sorry, I
took most
of your time here.
I was just laughing in the interim there while you were going through the presentation. For some reason, my laptop just shut down. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not going to get it back on."
Yeah.
So I think the recording stayed intact, but if it didn't, anyway, don't worry. We'll go through a lot here. Lots of questions coming in. Myself and Sarah have been doing our best to get through it.
Fantastic.
Listen, before we get into the Q&A, well done and thanks for sharing. And I think what's really something that you didn't really pick up there in the start, I think you kind of skimmed over it, was, you know, when I chatted to Jack at the very get-go, and he said that, you know, Jim has started, you literally badgered him to get the job, right?
I did.
And
yes.
when you got in, you did it. You know, you really.
I made myself available for everything.
And I remember Jack telling me that story. He's like, "Who is this guy that's constantly contacting me and says he's going to do a great job?" But I think what's inspiring there is, you know, and I know you didn't share it there, but it's your experience in school with education and how you went on to do what you did, and now, you know, you're pretty much at the helm in many respects in terms of what scanning pen are all about. You know, scanning pens are all about. So look, I'm really appreciative of you being here, and I think you've given an awful lot of information there. Just one thing I really want to pick up on, and that is, look, the pen isn't cheap, right? Yes. It's 300 odd euros, fantastic, and it's still allowing people to access information, which is great. Yes. However, you touched on it, but could we just talk about the trial for parents or education? Just give an overview of how that process works, so people fill in the form.
They do, yes. So online, I'll put our website
we can
directly.
Drop it in there as well into the chat.
Drop it in there, yeah. We'll drop it in the chat so everybody can get a free 30-day trial schools. And there's a 14-day trial for parents as well, so they can try that out. I think what's best for parents, actually, to get around that, I would suggest actually just going to Amazon for parents, because you actually get 30 days because they have a 30-day money back guarantee on Amazon. So actually, if I was a parent, just go straight to Amazon.
And I mean, the other thing for parents, look, if you want that trial, is maybe just to get in touch with the school, get the school to get in touch with you guys, and potentially get the, and we can supply trial.
If you're a school education establishment, you can get a trial from us personally for parents to make your life easier. I'd just go straight to Amazon, and it's just easier for you.
I think that's really important. And look, I've covered it in quite a bit of detail. I've got my pen here. I use it myself all the time, actually. And it's fantastic. I'm left-handed, so I use that left-handed side. I don't use the translation per se or the dictionary, but certainly I would scan books. And I saw a question come in there from somebody in the chat, and that was, what format does it come in on the laptop? I think it's a text file, right? A TXT file.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
But with the Magic Keyboard selected, you can be on anything. So you could have your cursor in emails, and as you scan over it, it'd actually transfer it to an email as well.
And I think that's a really useful way. But I can't say it enough in terms of utilize the trial. It's not the silver bullet. I love it. Like, I've been using it for years. It's not the silver bullet for all kids. So it is important to make sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. Yes.
Specifically, I would say students that I found that struggle sometimes, students with DCD find gross motor skill issues, just to really make sure that they're on top of it. But you actually picked up on some lovely pointers there around how you hold the pen, the best way to push it.
These are things I've learned from students who've gave me that feedback, and teachers who've told me I haven't learnt this, they've told me this, and I thought, well, this is brilliant. And I've actually seen a student come up to me and was like, I'll show you this. So actually, and something else I've forgotten to mention, we have an Irish accent on the pen. So I forgot to mention that. No,
I'm a little bit dubious, Jim, as to where the Irish accent is coming from.
I know, I've been asked this very much. I want to say for you, it's from Cork, James, but I'm not sure.
I'm afraid it's not. It's some hybrid of Dublin, possibly. But listen, I'm going to jump into a few of the Q&A, and I'm just going to pick and choose a tiny bit here, if that's okay.
Please do. Yeah, I can see there's a lot.
Yeah, so let me just jump into this, right? Okay, so there's quite a lot coming in, and I think we could go through this for a long time. Okay, what's the best one here to pick up? Okay, so hey, my son is in third. So this is I'm going to answer this live. So hey, my son is in third year.
What would that be, James?
Coming in there now. My apologies. Sorry, my daughter's in 6th class. Would the exam reader be the best option for her?
What year is that?
So 6th class. So that's the equivalent of a 13-year-old child.
So they're going into
they're primary school.
They're nearly there.
Yeah,
I would suggest the reader pen personally.
I would too. Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. I'm looking for a starter pen for my 8-year-old. I mean, there's another few questions came in here. What sort of age, Jim? Where does that sit? 7, 8.
About 7 years old, 7, 8, I'd say. Any younger, I don't think they're getting the real benefits of it. It depends on the person, though, as well. The individual, they might get on with it. We know how good people are.
And I think the other thing to bear in mind there, it's not age specific, right? It's obviously to do with their ability as you see it. Like, I was dealing with an 11-year-old just recently, and he literally had no literacy. And so it's not about improving his reading, it's more about scaffolding his learning, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely.
Kind of a call.
Full on correct there.
Okay, fantastic. Let's keep going here. Never had one for our school. Just wondering, is the text color coded for Ehlers syndrome? So do you find, Jim, that the text that's appearing on the pen, you can't change the background of the pen?
It's blue, the text is, and the
Standard
background's
blue.
Black.
Yeah,
standard.
Right.
You can't change that.
You can't change that. Yeah, I thought that. All right. Okay, so here's a good one, Maureen. So how difficult is it to get permission to use the pen in state exams? 14-year-old's report says reader and scribe will be needed. So just from your general experience, Gemma, we can talk about that in terms of state examinations here in Ireland. I looked through the recommendation documents just this afternoon before we came on the call, and I think it's mentioned in the guidelines for schools 32 times, and they use the term reader pen. So they're heavily recommending it is my take on it. 32 times it's been mentioned, and so
spoken to them recently. They are very much pushing it.
Okay, so thanks, James. I'm just trying to dig in, try and pick out. Would the Connect pen be the best choice for an EAL post-primary students? So English as an additional language or second language. So would you reckon that the Connect pen would be better there, Jim?
Yes, they could also use the Lingo pen. It depends on the language they're looking for, because obviously they wouldn't need the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection. It is quite a popular device, but yes, they could use the Connect pen as well. All depends.
So question there from Paul Murphy, and I know there's been a lot of questions coming. I've lost it, but I think, here it is. So Paul's question was, do you need the standard reader pen, or do you have to have the orange exam pen for Irish state exams?
Yeah, right. Great question, because there's a bit of contradiction with this. So SEC haven't kind of said this in their guidance. I'm not sure, and I've been trying to clarify with them. So basically, in the UK, you would need to use the exam reader for examination purposes. And SEC have kind of said, if you have the exam lock on, so there's an exam lock function on the reader pen, which turns it into the exam reader. So it locks the dictionary, dictaphone, and storage. But they haven't officially said it in their guidelines, because when I looked, I can't see it. So you would, at the moment, I would suggest going for the exam reader. But they have said
just to be
safe, because they have said to people individually, if they email them, yes, you can use the reader pen, but it's not stated in the guidelines, and you shouldn't. It's have not, to
and they use the term just. And I'm if we'll get time there in a second. I want to show the recommendations. Obviously, I know that a lot of the core dates are gone for this year. We still have late application, and we still have appeals, but. Look, one of the big questions comes up for me often is that a lot of schools will go, or parents will go and buy the exam orange reader if their child is that 12 or 13 and they're going into secondary. And I actually think that the standard reader pen is far more beneficial.
I do as well.
Yeah, try and think a little bit more holistically, that it's not just for exams, it's for that whole learning experience, that whole learning toolkit.
Because you want them to continue learning from home as well.
Great question here, actually, from Carl, and that is, can Bluetooth wireless earpods be used for the pen? No. Yeah, and I like, that is certainly one that I think would be a fantastic upgrade, right? So
absolutely.
That's a great question. Do schools provide, and this is a good question as well, do schools provide the exam reader pens, or do parents get them for the exams? Great question, and this is a really difficult one. So the state examinations do not pay for the pen.
No,
it's a reasonable
provided by the school.
Yeah, so it's provided by the school, and then in my experience, either the school will pay for it, or potentially the parents will pay for that device, and it's used.
Absolutely, it should be provided by the school normally.
Yeah, and again, like, so it goes
because they
both
can
ways.
do the checks on them and ensure they can't cheat, or there's nothing
exactly
tampered with. So
it's very similar to using a laptop as a word processor, I suppose, which would be the term. Quick question there: how long is the trial period? So again,
30 days.
Fantastic.
And if I was you as a parent, I would just go to Amazon, because then you actually get officially 30 days from Amazon as well.
Yeah, good question. Gronya here has a question. So are there updates available? We only got the exam reader about a month ago. So in terms of updates, Jim, I know that you've some videos on that and stuff, but firmware updates, what's that?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Especially the person who's mentioned a month ago, you'll have all of the new updates on there. You can go to our website. There's a video showing you how to actually update the device. We don't update the exam reader for obvious reasons, because it needs to be used for examinations, but the reader pen does have updates, but we haven't done an update for a long time. So
okay, so the version of exam reader is still going to be quite perfectly efficient for Gronya.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Good question. We've ordered a trial pen, delivery kind of came delivery. Okay, this is a good question. Let's just deal with it on the head here, actually. So Eva, we ordered a trial pen, but when the delivery company came to deliver to the school, they wanted to charge us €80 for custom charges. We did not accept the delivery, and the pen was returned. Is there a way to avoid this charge?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, and something that's been discussed internally for a long, long time. Brexit has made things a lot harder. So if you are a school that have already trialed our pen maybe 2-3 years ago, there is a tax added to it. But if you're a school that have never trialed before, you can go ahead and trial our devices still. So there's another way around it. We do have resellers out there, so I'll pop them in there for you, and you can go ahead and get a trial from them as well.
I was just going to literally.
Yeah, it would make life easier.
If a school wanted to get a trial pen, can they go via the likes of EdTech?
They can go through them guys and sort it out through them, and I'm sure they can sort it out. But if you're a school that have never trialed the pens before, never had them, you can come through us and get that trial for the 30 days with no different cost or anything. But if you've trialed before, unfortunately, I think UPS do put an added charge on there.
Yeah, no, it's a really good one. How many? Okay, this is a good one as well. How many lines can the pen read at a time?
Yeah, it can read as many lines as you like. We don't really promote this to kind of say, for example, to read a whole page or several pages, because it become a long process and quite frustrating. So it can read as much as you like. It's just more the fact of kind of in using it when you're reading yourself and then picking out the odd word or couple of lines or paragraph that you don't understand.
So question here, and any plans for Irish language for the pen? So I sort of have an inside track on this, but I'll let you answer it.
Not at the moment, I don't believe, unless you have more on it.
Yeah, so this is more of an Irish thing, but a lot of the universities here in Ireland banded together in the last maybe year and a half. They are currently developing a text-to-speech Irish transition language. Okay, so
amazing.
UL, who you know quite well, Thomas O'Shaughnessy in UL.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah, so Thomas is driving this, and the UCC. I'm actually doing a lot of work in UCC myself. UCC are involved. UL, Trinity, NUIG, I think Maynooth. There's about 5 or 6 basically higher ed colleges put in money, and they're developing this piece of software. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to make it open source, so it'll be available to Microsoft. It'll technically be available to scanning pens in the next year and a half. So I know that Jack is probably aware that it's kind of kicking off in the background. Nothing is confirmed, but certainly it's something that I've seen as a major obstacle in terms of the Irish language, and I'm really glad to say that there's something happening on it at least. So hopefully that's of help. Okay, let's keep coming here. So again, like, can the school apply for the 80 grant for the pen? That's from Annie O'Keefe. I guess I can pick that up. Yeah, they can. I suppose what I would say there, Annie, is that the pen is in and around, I'm just going to say in and around €300 ballpark, right? You know, and the average AT grant is about 550. So a lot of schools might see it that we're not getting as much bang for buck if we just apply for the pen. Some will apply for both, and dependent on the application, dependent on the submission, they might get it. But again, it's very much individualized. But I would say what I've seen is that it's either one or the other, you know, and it's a lot of schools, I suppose, see it that maybe are we wasting the process of going through this to buy it, when potentially we might be able to buy it within school funds and use it centrally, or potentially the parents might have the capacity to purchase it. I think that's not a perfect answer, but that's pretty much what I'm seeing in terms of my experience. Just in terms of questions, please drop them into the Q&A, because we're trying to get through as many as you can. I see people are dropping them into the chat as well at the moment. So Jim, are you okay to stay with me for another while?
Yeah, 5 minutes till 1:15, fine.
Top man. Well, in my typical fashion, I know Sarah's probably laughing behind here, I typically stay on longer, but you, if you need to jump off, I think it's important that you do. So I just want to see if I can answer any more here. Oh yeah, good question here from Paul Murphy, just in terms of warranties. What warranty does the C-Pen have? If a fault occurs, how quickly can it be replaced, repaired, or returned potentially to the student and the school?
It has a 1-year warranty, manufacturers. So if there is a defect at all, do get in contact with us. If it goes over the year, we'll usually do our best to help and support anyway. So we have a customer dedicated team that can help you with any questions anyway, and I'm sure they'll do their best to help support.
In terms of any breakages or anything like that, Jim, is there anything, like, is that something that you see in terms of the screens, or is
not really, no.
Yeah. It's not something that jumps up. Can you purchase? So a quick question here from Mary. So that's just it's coming up quite a bit. Can you purchase the pins in Ireland? And I think you can touched on that.
Or maybe supply a reseller list or whatever.
Yeah, I'll push that around. I think, you know, look, there's a number of people that are reselling them. The one that just comes to mind is Liam in EdTech, but there's a few others that are out there.
Yeah,
and Liam is great to give some advice as well. Do parents get charged for the customs also, or is it just schools? No. That's a good question. I suppose just to get around that, we just go via one of the resellers here, probably in Ireland, or potentially Amazon directly. That might be the way.
Yeah, Amazon's fine as well. Amazon seems to work really well. So.
Yeah. So just looking to. So hey, James, do we need to have a recommendation from NEPS or a NEPS psychologist to apply?
I've seen us in there. Yeah, you don't have to now.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important there, if there is a professional recommendation from an OT or an education psychologist, then obviously there's somewhat of an onus potentially maybe within the school to use that technology. But you certainly would need it if you're making an application for an AT grant. But obviously you need to have some recommendation for the child to be able to use it in a school setting, I would say. Okay, does the use of the pen. This is a good one, actually. And does the use of the pen encourage students to give up developing their own reading ability and/or skills? And that's a good question, right?
Very interesting. Yeah,
you can take that, or I can
I'll
jump
take
in
that. Yeah,
go for it,
absolutely. So obviously the pen isn't designed to kind of scan pages full of text. So it actually encourages you to read independently and by yourself. So actually what you're trying to do is it's encouraging them to read and then just use the pen to pick out the word that they wouldn't normally understand, or a word that they would skip. So actually the pen gives you that more independence and encourages you to read, because actually you take that stigma around, oh, I don't want to pick up that book because I don't understand it, when actually you can pick up that book and use your pen to scan the odd words you don't understand.
Yeah, it's that
It is a
difference
good
between
question.
developing language and obviously scaffolding. And I
Yeah.
suppose what, as I would see it, it's not necessarily, it's a hard one to answer specifically. I would say it's not specifically developing reading, right? But it's allowing the individual to be more independent, which therefore allows them to absorb the reading more, you know. And I've had loads of students that will use the pen, and obviously they're absorbing much more information, reading much more, like Jim said, independently, going away reading Harry Potter books in their bed. You know, that's the level of independence that it's giving, and it's obviously scaffolding the learning to move to the next level. I'm just gonna we're gonna try something here. I think Caroline wants to come in and ask a question. Caroline, I'm just gonna hit allow to talk. If you want to jump in, please do, and I'll just hit it here and we'll see what question she has for us, Jim. Okay.
Yeah.
Caroline, you're on there if you wanna ask us a question. If not, we can move on. Don't worry. Hi, Caroline. Do you want to ask a question?
You can type it in the box if not.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll move on. I think that might be gone. So let's just see if there's anything else here. That's the most recent. Can you claim the VAT back on this? That's a really good question, Mary. I will, Sarah, even if you can grab it there, we'll just drop in the link and I'll put it out as well. So yes, you can, if you buy it through an Irish provider, you can claim the VAT back. You can actually claim VAT back on a 4-year period for any technologies that you've purchased. So we've done a bit of detail and a bit of work on that. We covered off on the courses, but I have a really nice blog post on it with all the links and stuff. So we'll drop that in. Let me see. Good one here from Deirdre. Is the reader available on Amazon.de or .co.uk? It's on Germany, Amazon, is it?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
It is.
So yeah. that's a kind of
they have a German reseller as well. So
okay, well that's where probably a lot of us Irish people buy when we buy via Amazon now. Is we go through Germany, so we don't have to pay some of the Brexit fees, right? So I know there's a lot of bits and pieces coming in here into the chat. So any questions, try and get to the Q&A. We're trying to get through those. And I'm just going to say it before some people start jumping off, is that if you're interested, obviously, in our course, because that's how we keep your ability running and why I'm able to give up like 3 hours of my night, is I think Sarah might drop into the chat some of our links. If you're not on our courses, if you are, thank you. I really, really do appreciate it. If you're not, and you're thinking about it and you want more information to this sort of content on a more specialized basis, then please jump on. We have a €30 off, and that's the code is scanning. And so that's either for the education version or potentially for the parent version. And again, for the parents and teachers that are on here, that are on our courses, in March after midterm, we're going to be running just member only sessions. So one specific for parents and one specific for education. And it's kind of a come and ask me anything, kind of a 2-hour block. And literally it will be me just rallying through as many questions as I possibly can. All right. Jim, is there anything else that you'd like to add in terms of, there's a question here from Grania. I would love to ask Jim about using different pens for my 3 children with various needs. Maybe you can just specify on that if there's anything specific.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, if there's more to that, Grania, please just jump in and ask. But I think that's a good question. I mean, like for me, I constantly recommend a standard pen, right? Because it just works really well. It's a fantastic piece of kit. I don't know from your point of view, Jim, like personally, what's your usage?
I'd more reader pen personally.
Yeah.
More reader pen, and then schools do the exam reader. But again, it depends what kind of setting it is. If it's post-primary, it's probably the exam reader. If it's primary, it's reader pen.
Yeah.
And then actually university, college, it could be both. I think reader pen's better for colleges personally.
So good question
University.
here from Ashen. Thank you very much. I agree. I agree. Good question here from Ashen. Would you see the reader pen eventually removing the need for a reader in a states or an exam or a state exam situation?
Absolutely.
I
Well,
think
possibly.
That's really what's happening, isn't it?
Oh, it's happening in
Some
the
instances.
UK already. It's completely, the use of technology is promoted by the exam board here in the UK. So I can see that, eventually happening. Some students will require human reader.
Of course.
Because they need their own handwriting read back to them, which is fair enough. But yes, it will, I believe, eventually.
I think there's always those specific cases, and don't worry. I mean, like if you've been in terms of reasonable accommodations for this coming year, if you've been given those reasonable accommodations, then they're going to continue. But I do see it as we move on to further education, university setting. They really are pulling back on the ability for readers. Now, if it's a physical disability and there's some requirement from that end, then of course it continues. But it's starting with state exams here, specifically in Ireland, and it's moving into universities. And universities, I know there's a few people on here from universities, like they are trying to orientate towards text to speech. So that could be read and write, that could be Claro, it could be the reader, or a mixture of both. But certainly we're trying to move away from that personal, not invigilator, but that personal scribe, I suppose. Now, I have to say, if you're a teacher and an SNA on this call and you're a scribe, then don't worry, your job isn't at risk just yet in terms of state exams. Like, they're constantly going to be using them. They're constantly going to need people to do scribing, because there's very specific cases where it is necessary, and that the pen isn't the answer for all those students. Let's just have one more look here. Okay, so Grant just came back here, right? The youngest child is 10 with dyslexia. Then the next is 14 with dyscalculia and dyslexia. And finally, the 16-year-old is in junior cycle with DCC and dyslexia. I don't know, Grania, whether you're thinking of buying like one pen for each kid. Maybe there's a 2 for 3 offer, Jim, is there? I don't know. I'm only joking. But maybe like it's buy the reader pen, and then that particular pen works for all 3 students, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I'd say.
Is that a better approach?
Yeah, I wouldn't just have a separate pen. Just go with the reader pen.
Yeah, I think so. Colleen, are universities more accommodating and accessible with these devices to students than secondary schools for exams?
Absolutely not. No, colleges and universities do have more of these pens. However, there's still a lot of post-primary schools using them. So no.
Mm-hmm. And your experience in the UK, are they widely used in post-primary?
Massively. So this is the biggest sector.
65%
of UK secondary school have an exam pen, at least one.
That's a big stat. That's a big stat.
I have to rattle that off. So
I would hazard a guess that we're not anywhere close to that particular number. Now, I do know, like from a university setting, just because
universities are the biggest
in Ireland, I would say,
because of Thomas at University of Limerick.
Yeah. So
they're our biggest customer. He has about 400 exam readers.
Well, that's phenomenal. Here in UCC, for anyone that's kind of Cork based, we probably have 60 or 80, I think.
You do, UCC, yes. You have quite a few as well, and
but not as heavy as UL. Yeah, look, I think again, like if you come into places like that, you'll see now in Ireland as well, a lot of the library services here in Ireland or education centres are buying them, and you can take them on loans.
Yeah.
The libraries have done a bit of work with you, right? So some of the libraries have pens for loan. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, they've purchased directly. I'm just in contact with Wexford Library as well, so I'm trying to get in contact with them because they've done a nice article on the pens of how they've been loaning them out to people with reading difficulties.
There's a number of libraries. I mean, and I'm just using UCC again as an example. So UCC Library here in Cork have got a few of the pens, and they give them out to students and staff. So I think you're going to see that sort of thing happen. I know a few of the education centres are kind of looking on that road as well, which is kind of an interesting way. I'm just going to see if we can pick up 1 or 2 more questions. And poor Jim there's like, Jesus, I need tea. I need to get away from this. Our university. Okay, we've answered that. Sarah, I don't know if there's anything kind of cropping up for you on your end, if you're seeing anything. Okay, here's a good one. Can you increase the volume on the pen and increase the text size on the screen? I mean, that's a very common question we get as well, but I think just jump on that one there for me, Jim. Yeah,
speed and volume is within the settings, so you'll find volume in there. Definitely worth, if you're struggling for sound, to get the proper plug-in headphones, the ones with the earbuds. Just gives you a more amplified sound. In terms of text size, it stays the same. However, I mentioned around visual impairment and a setting that you can use. So if you scan a single word, it gets highlighted in blue. If you're holding your middle button on the device, it enlarges it big on the screen, so it fills the whole screen. That's the only way you can get around it.
And then that's a really good idea, actually. I think what we discussed before the session, or maybe in the last week, we have I've covered the scanning pen in depth on our courses, but I'm going to do another even more in-depth session, and Jim's going to send me over a new pen. We're just going to like unbox it, and I'm going to step through every process. So I'm going to, so I'll really do a detailed analysis of using the pen, and I'll give a few examples. I think that might be helpful for parents. I just want to pick up on a question here, and this is really important, actually. So just wondering, how is it for reading maths questions? Does it read fractions, etc.?
Great question. Yeah, I'll answer that. So with maths, the orange exam reader doesn't read math symbols. It's taken away because it can't decode questions for students. It will, so it won't read, it will just skip over it.
Yeah.
If you have the reader pen, for example, and you're doing maths questions at home or in the classroom, it will read it. So it will go 5 plus 5 equals, it will go 5 divided by, but it won't pick up percentage. So it won't, or fractions, for example. But your standard simplified maths question, it will read aloud to you. And to build on that point, if you're thinking about reasoning questions, maths that are quite long worded, it's well worth picking up your pen to use it for those questions as well. So don't forget about your maths questions.
Yeah, no, really good point. And I think that's something that I've seen come up, and specifically to state exams here in Ireland. The terminology that's used in the guidelines is that where the reader pen can be used. So for example, if fractions is an issue for a student, then that's where potentially it would be a reader pen and a reader, like, so if they're doing chemistry, or if it's some other sort of STEM, and reading fractions is quite a large part of the exam, they can use the pen for some, and then they can obviously have a reader as well. So just to put people at ease. The other thing is, Jim needs to run off. The other thing is that
my cat wanted to go out for
that's supper. All. The other thing I just want to say there is the option, obviously, of a Quatio. So TextHelp have a piece of software called the Quatio, which is really good for STEM.
It is.
If you're a teacher, and I say this all the time, if you're a teacher, you can get both read and write and the Quatio for free. I'll drop the link in. There's a link that you can get a free download of both pieces of software, and that's really important that you jump on that. So I know we're coming right up on time here, but I love to push the boundaries a small bit. And so could the future be that let's see, obviously it's coming up there, Jim, that the Bluetooth is the way to go. I don't know if there's anything happening about that. Probably.
Jim, would you mind, Jim, if I just asked you one there before? I know you're about to get off there.
Yeah, of course.
But there's just one or two came in there about the lifespan of the reader pen. Is there software available to update it, or is there any need, or what really would the lifespan be of one of those there?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of updates, what happens is everybody who purchases the pen is on a database, and then at the end, whenever there is an update, we send it out to everybody. So that's including parents, schools, colleges, whatever format that you're in. You'll get a message to say, look, there's been a new update, and it talks about the update, and then it shows you a link, so you're able to download that free update. There's never updates for the exam reader, really, because it can't be updated to follow exam guidelines. Whereas the reader pen does get its updates. In terms of lifespan, as long as you look after the battery, that's the main problem with the pen. So what I mean by this it's calls that I've got 3 years ago where schools call up and say, oh, my pen won't turn on. That's because they've left the pen in a cold cupboard for a year, 6 months. So just keeping on top of charging, and you'll be fine in terms of lifespan, and it will last for a long time.
Okay, super. Thanks, Jim.
That's fantastic. Is there anything else there that you're coming to see? Because I know, Sarah, you've been in the questions there for a while, but while you're digging that out, if you really enjoyed the session, if you enjoyed what Jim did, I just dropped in a link to our Facebook there. A quick review would be epic for us. I'm just going to do a quick kind of recap, and that is, please, think about the scanning pen. Like I said, and I've said this a few times, and I say it always to Jim and to Jack, he said it's not necessarily the silver bullet, but it's a fantastic option. And I think it's all about what is the learning toolkit. It's not going to be just the scanning pen on its own. It's going to be potentially a laptop. It's going to be good teaching techniques. It's going to be good support at home. It's that sort of like ecosystem around the student, around your child, that's going to be most important. And I would see that the reading pen will just play a part in that level of independence. Do look at some of the videos that we have, some of the stuff that Jim is going to send on. And then obviously, if you're a school, potentially look at the trial. We will get some of the links out to you in terms of what Jim has to play. So Jim, any kind of final thoughts, anything that you'd like to jump on before we leave?
Not really, just thank you so much for obviously hosting the webinar, everybody for joining. We've had so many people still live on the webinar still this late, I imagine, putting the kids to bed and obviously having your own tea or whatever. So thank you so much everybody for coming along. And also just to mention, James, around the winner for the raffle. So just let me know how you want to do this. It'd be great.
I think we just have a pull down from everybody that was here. So there's about 300 odd that were on live.
It'd be great to kind of share it on Twitter or,
absolutely.
or
so
whatever.
I'll do it tomorrow morning.
So.
I'll pull this down. I'm going to just, hopefully the recording's all in play. If not,
happy to share my slides with people and some of the further information as well. So I'll send that across to you, James. And
in terms of, I just want to touch on a few things that are upcoming. So I'm probably going to do, I haven't been doing as many direct webinars as I suppose I would have liked to, but it's definitely something I'm going to do. So I'm going to probably do 2 more webinars over the next while. And I think in the more we talk about it, Sarah, these sort of Q&A sessions almost, so not cover any technology and just answer people's questions. So we might look at doing.
I think.
What's your thoughts, Sarah? Because look, you're always answering these questions.
I definitely think you just need to put 2 hours and just say, ask me anything. I think you would be flat out for 2 hours for sure. Yeah.
And look, I think that would be very useful. So maybe let's give people a chance to do their, to get over the midterm next week, and then maybe a week or 2 after that. Let's look at doing a general Q&A for all parents and obviously teachers as well in SNAs. And then really important that I keep hammering that home, but we have a nice tight knit parent community on our courses, and so I'm going to do a session specifically with that group. So you'll get probably a bit more hand holding through those sessions. But I think we'll jump on and do one in March. And then I'm talking at I'm doing a conference in Wexford actually. So that's for. I can't remember the name. I don't know, Sarah. Actually, I should have this, and I'll send it out as well. But that is, I think, the 15th or 16th of May.
It's a Cottage Autism, James, is what it is. Cottage Autism.
And it's a fantastic group, and they've really put together a phenomenal lineup. So they have some really good speakers. It's myself, Adam Harris from As I Am, and there's 2 or 3 other people that are coming along to speak at that. And I think tickets are maybe, I don't know, 20, 30, maybe 30 euros. It's on a Sunday. And again, I'm going to do a full-on kind of session and a workshop and be around for the day to answer questions. So there's a lot of people, I think they're pretty much selling those tickets pretty well. So that's one event. There's a few other bits and pieces that I'll be doing for the education centres that'll be coming up. And if you're on our mailing list, then obviously we'll just send that stuff around. So hopefully that's of help. We do get a lot of requests there for, one-to-ones and more personal training, whatever else. It just isn't something that's feasible, I suppose, for us right now, but that's why we try to put as much into the courses as we possibly can. And I think it's really a good idea to bring people like Jim on, and I'm going to look at bringing in somebody from Read and Write. I'm going to look at bringing in somebody from Microsoft just to start to get a sense check of what they're doing and how they can help and support. But I have a strong suspicion, Jim, that you'll be back next September or October when we kick off the season, and we might do a more one-to-one recorded session that's short and sharp and to the point, and we might share that out as well. So listen, you're a star for giving up all your time, and I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in person really soon, hopefully. Sarah, thanks for all the help in the background. You're a star as well.
Thanks very much, guys.
Come here, have a great night. Enjoy the cup of tea, and I'm going to get myself a purple snack, or is it a blue snack? That's always the question. Purple or blue, who knows? All right, go on. Listen, thank you so much. Pleasure, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. See you soon.